And we have a lot of product score that we put in place to say, how is this product done every time it's been on air relative to the amount of airtime that it's gotten? So there's this whole AI, ML-based scoring system that we have in place. It's been in place for a lot of years. It's gone through a lot of improvements. So those are the aspects that it brings to it. And then this very real-time nature of what this show brings to our business. The thing that's going to sell the most is the thing that's on air all the time. So you've got really, really important pieces of code that are very small, but they're reserving product as people are clicking on it so that you don't oversell it.
Welcome to the E-Commerce Toolbox Expert Perspectives, a podcast by Noibu, where we explore the elite strategies and cutting-edge insights with our expert guests. Get ready to propel your e-commerce business to the next level.
Welcome to another episode of the E-Commerce Toolbox Experts Perspective. Joining us today, we have Chris, who's the CTO at JTV. We've actually known each other for a couple of years, so really excited to have you on the show. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Caitlin. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, I always like to start off by learning a bit more about your career journey. So why don't you talk to us a bit about your career journey and kind of what led you to being the CTO and heading up all things technical for JTV?
Yeah, absolutely. So my career journey, I'm kind of older to the internet and all things internet, probably predate the web, but I started my career, I suppose I go back to Argonne National Lab, and I was working in the engineering physics division on particle accelerators, and swore to myself I'd never get into business computing, but here we are today on this podcast talking about e-commerce. So ended up with a master's degree and out of there in computer science and math, and ended up at Oracle for a couple of years working in their consulting division, did a bunch of stuff around the Southeast. Ultimately, I left for Atlanta from Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'm showing my colors today because we have a game tomorrow against Oklahoma. So I did graduate from the University of Tennessee in their computer science and engineering department. Ended up at a small company that turned into WebMD.com. So I was very early days WebMD in a company called Medcast that ultimately merged with WebMD and Healthion, which was Jim Clark's company out in Silicon Valley. And I wound up moving out to Silicon Valley for a couple of years and working there in Patrick Henry. Really, it was .com boom central. So worked there for a few years. It got bought and taken over, and it's still around. Obviously, everybody uses WebMD.com. I don't think there's a person on listening to the podcast and be like, what is that? But it was really exciting working in the internet, not in e-commerce, but in healthcare. I didn't really love the healthcare stuff, even though it's a noble cause, and ultimately went into online travel with a company called Last Minute Travel, where I was the CTO, and we recapitalized that company. Was really off to be a professor of computer science and was hired as such. And JTV just kept calling me, and they were back here in Knoxville. And my wife and I decided to take a leap and go back into corporate America, I guess, in general. And so moved here in 2005 and have never looked back. I love the company. I love the culture. And I love the mission, so just decided to stay. And I also love the people that are on this JTV technology team too. So I'm here for them.
Love it. Thanks so much for the intro. Could you maybe talk to us a bit about your main roles and responsibilities as CTO? I know there's also a chief digital officer for the business. So I'm curious to see how you guys kind of tackle that strategy. So yeah, I'm curious to just learn a bit more about that.
He's a super close friend, one of my very best friends. We've known each other since I got here. I've been here almost 19 years. He's been here longer, and we've done the journey together, and we're great partners. He basically runs, call it like the operations of the website, and then any sort of technical side of the website, we build that, we make sure it works, we operate the website. So there's a pretty clear delineation between our roles, and it works out really well not to have day-to-day responsibilities for promotions and marketing and merchandising and those kinds of things on the site. And he has great people that do that. So my general responsibilities are anything technology. So what rolls up into me is several divisions. Data infrastructure, think of that team as the team that schleps data all over the place. We have a traditional enterprise data warehouse that does all our operational reporting. We've got big data warehouses that schlep in all kinds of fast-moving, high volume, high density data. That's that data infrastructure team. All of the network operations, telecommunications, Unix systems, virtual systems, email plants, all that stuff, corporate computing, all that stuff kind of rolls up into a group I call technical operations. And then I have all the software engineers. And so we are a little bit unique here at JTV in that we write all our own software. So when it comes to the warehouse management system, the order management system, any of the show planning tools, that is code that is wholly written here. And our warehouse is totally automated too. So that's integrations with automations and stuff. We do all that work. And then the QA teams and the product owners. So all that stuff is rolling into the technology division.
That's really cool. And because of some of the unique characteristics of JTV, like having an actual television network, could you maybe discuss some of the importance of how you've been able to integrate some of the live TV data with some of the e-com data? And obviously you mentioned that you guys are an engineering heavy organization. So yeah, maybe talk to us a bit about that.
The live show is 24/7, 364 really. We take Christmas off and we typically will run tapes just to give everybody the day off. But you can't have one without the other, including on our e-commerce platform. Really, almost all of our sales are somehow influenced by the TV broadcast. So to say you have an e-commerce platform that would be void of a very excellent integration of your live TV would just not work. So we have, from the beginning of time, like the website, dating all the way back to 2005, when we rolled out kind of the first new instantiation of the website, we've had live TV on our systems. So the thing that TV brings to e-commerce is, if you think of any sort of retail store, any jewelry store even, there's not a lot of real-time aspects to those businesses. You've got merchants that are looking out and buying stuff at pretty long distances out in front. And we aren't that way. You've got to deal with like what's on air right now. That's the thing the customer is buying. So you've got to have these real-time integrations into the studio, which means what's on air right now, what's coming up, what were the last 10 items on air. All that stuff has to be readily available to our customers while they're watching the broadcast. And then if you sort of take that a step further, you've got to take that into your warehouse, because you're going to have hot items in the warehouse that are going to start getting picked in mass. And how do you deal with that efficiently? And you have a call center agent. So we still do a pretty large call center business too. You'll have a customer, for example, they'll call up and say, I'd like that item that's on air right now. They may not know the SKU number for that item. So we actually have built into our call center system the whole notion of the live TV and what items have been on air. So the agents in the call center can say, oh, is that this emerald ring that you're talking about? Yes, that's the one. And they can put it in their cart. And it's just all these sort of real-time aspects to the business, including on the set. There's actually real-time sales data, real-time performance data of every product, because they've got to know how much airtime to spend on any one product. And that has to be at the fingertips of the host and the producer. So it's that real-time aspect that just most companies don't have to deal with. It also impacts our data warehouse. You want to know how that show did right after the show's over. So our data warehouse doesn't have a thing where it updates all the data one time a day. We are constantly updating our data warehouse. Literally, as sales are happening, data is flowing and we're processing that data. So within 15 or 20 minutes of anything happening, you can do reporting on that.
And I know from working with you guys that it's quite the operation you guys have built. So I'm curious, because you guys took on a big project recently around a replatforming. Maybe talk to us a bit about why you thought that you guys were ready for a replatforming and maybe how it went and some of the thought process behind it.
Sure, yeah. So a little bit of history there. We moved to a platform called Demandware. I think they've been bought by Salesforce. I don't know what they call that platform now. But we moved to that platform right after the crash in 2008 that really affected our company. The fact that we're still here is a testament to the founders, the leaders of this company, to kind of walk us through that. But you lost a lot of people. And so we needed a platform to move to. We had a totally homegrown platform at that time and just didn't have the staff to keep up with it. So we moved on to the Demandware platform, which was a SaaS platform. And it really helped us tremendously when we moved on to it. But over the years, from say 2011, 2010, when we moved on to that platform, to 2017, we really outgrew it. Demandware couldn't keep up with the real-time web service calls that we needed to do. They were putting constraints on how many calls we could make, and the platform wasn't stable. And so we really, really had to re-platform. It was not and the cost there was really driving high. There was a percentage of sales behind the using of the platform. We wanted to get out of that. and we needed to be able to scale this thing. And so we moved in 2017, I think 2016, we probably started looking at it. We ended up choosing Oracle Commerce as our platform, and we moved our operations to Rackspace. So we pushed all of our systems there. We built up an infrastructure there. We installed Oracle Commerce, and then we built our custom website on top of that. We used DMI. They did an amazing job. I don't usually have a lot of accolades for systems integrators because we write our own software here. And when you're hiring consultants, God love them, and I do, it's sort of short timer code that you end up with, man. And it's not pleasant to run short timer code when you're the guy that has to get up at 2:00 in the morning to manage it. So these guys at DMI were fantastic. We also installed a PIM system at the time. So we moved from kind of a hodgepodge of where's our SKU data to a very centralized product information management system all at the same time. And I would just say that project was really tough, but it went incredibly well. Anytime you move your customer's cheese, and we had things like Demandware owned all the credentials. So we moved to an IDP, an identity provider. And so we had to have all our customers change their passwords. And so there's an issue there, right? You've got to really walk through that carefully, but our customers did it gracefully. We had a really good process in place, and we ended up with a fantastic platform. I mean, at the end of the day, there's probably all those people listening to the podcast are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're not cloud native when you had a chance. And there were a lot of reasons we couldn't do that, unfortunately. Like, time was of the essence, and to just go and try and like literally rebuild everything without a really nice framework under it was not a luxury that we had. And I would say we're probably looking to migrate off of the platform we have now, but we're not really in a hurry to do that because you want to see the business benefit before you make a big move like that. But we added a ton of web services. The website is a whole lot more responsive. SKU updates are happening in seconds when prices change. That was not the case before. So you've got price changes happening in our business. Literally, like while we're sitting here, people are changing prices and adding promotions and stuff to our products. And those have to be ready like right now. And Google has to be synchronized with your prices. That all now happens in seconds now. We built a product integration platform that comes right out of PIM, built on some open source tools, and it is just event-based and super snappy. So we've got a lot of benefits out of the move, like not just technical benefits and efficiency benefits, but practical business benefits that we didn't have before.
I love that. And I'm curious, like, when do you think a CTO should start thinking about moving platforms? Like, what are kind of some of the telltale signs? Like you mentioned, right now, you guys are thinking about potentially replatforming. What kind of leads into that decision?
I think first and foremost, you have to sort of take on, as a CTO with your other peers across the company, let's say you think there's a technical reason that you need to move. It could be efficiencies, it could be maintenance. Those are pretty legitimate reasons to sort of contemplate moves. But then you really have to understand what benefit is the site actually going to get from that kind of a move. Are you going to get conversion rate increases? Are you going to get better merchandising and marketing and discoverability of products? Like, what are those aspects? Those are far more important in my mind. I would also say if a platform ages and becomes unsupported, then you're kind of in a corner. I mean, there's just reasons you have to move. I don't want to leave those out because we are on Oracle Commerce, which is, for all of you old timers in the business, like me, by the way, Oracle ATG is a long tried and true platform. It's a decent platform. And then Endeca is our search engine right now. Again, back in the day, it was awesome. So we're starting to feel the discoverability and some of the AI improvements that are coming out in search right now. We've now started looking at search engines and we're actively looking at them, but we could also just replace our search engine. We don't have to replace our platform. And that sort of leads into the how I would do it if I were you world. Like, I'm not probably going to have another Flag Day, and we are set up to iteratively move our platform onto new technology now. We're in the process of moving out of Rackspace to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and that's going to give us a whole lot of flexibility to make the next set of moves. We've started moving on to things like Cloudinary, like cloud-based image delivery systems. We've got Noibu in place. That really helps us understand our front end and what we have to do. There's, I think, an iterative approach to moving off of our current platform is the direction we're going to end up with. Replace the search engine, maybe replace cart. We already have an IDP that's just fine. We've got a lot of the elements in place, maybe a new content management system that replaces the XM. So I would urge people to think about how you could do it iteratively if you're caught in a platform like that and you really need to move. And I want to remove complexity from how we manage our platform too.
Cool. That's a great answer. Maybe talk to us a bit about, you have multiple sides of the business. You have the live TV, you have the commerce. Could you talk to us a bit about the live TV aspect of the business and like how that operates? I think I understand it from a high level, but in a bit more detail.
Yeah, so TV is obviously an important part of our business, as I said before, but it's a whole orchestration down there. If you think of any TV production, a commercial, a TV show that you watch, anything on Netflix, we do the similar stuff. You've got producers and you've got directors and you've got on-air talent and you've got people doing social media on the side. That may be unique to what we do and not so much TV commercials and stuff. And then you've got all the data that they need to understand how they're doing. One of the, if not the very largest cost in our business is our airtime. It costs a lot of money to be on all of the different affiliates that we're on. Think of it, we're on Comcast and DirecTV and Dish and Charter. We're on some over-the-air things. That costs a lot of money. And so you then have to start thinking about the effectiveness of every minute that you're on air. So this product's on air. Is it selling or is it not selling? If it isn't selling, set it down, move on to another product, try and get some sales in there. And you start thinking about things like gross margin per minute. And we have a lot of product score that we put in place to say, how is this product done every time it's been on air relative to the amount of airtime that it's gotten? So there's this whole AI, ML-based scoring system that we have in place. It's been in place for a lot of years. It's gone through a lot of improvements. So those are the aspects that it brings to it. And then this very real-time nature of what this show brings to our business. The thing that's going to sell the most is the thing that's on air all the time. So you've got really, really important pieces of code that are very small, but they're reserving product as people are clicking on it so that you don't oversell it, for example. But if you were to go into the studios, if you're asking more about kind of the execution of the shows, there are huge sets that we can transform from Christmas to Easter to summer to fall. Very versatile, flexible sets that we have engineers and lighting people and camera people that all go down there and kind of make sure our sets are set up for success. And then you've got the on-air talent that has to come in there doing 2-hour shows. So think about, I don't know about you, Kaylin, but I could not sit in front of a live camera for 2 hours going through, say, 60 products and think of some unique thing to say about this ring that's different than the one I'm about to show next and do a great job selling that. That is a very unique skill that's super hard to find. And there are no teleprompters. Like, they are going down there, pull the ripcord and let them start talking. And they do an amazing job. So it's a unique talent and it's very hard to find. And it's also maybe among the most important talents that you have to go find, because the success of the show is the success of the business in a lot of ways.
That's awesome, Chris. And honestly, thank you so much for your time in doing this podcast so far. Do you have anything else that you want to maybe pass on as like words of wisdom for people listening? Obviously, you've had a very successful career, over 20 years at JTV. JTV is really cool. It's one of our favorite customers to go and visit. Like you mentioned, I think our team was there this week. So website's great. Online production's really cool. The product's great. Anything else you want to kind of pass along to the folks listening?
Well, I mean, if you're in a leadership role in technology these days, I get saddened when I see the tenure years in certain companies. I get really sad. And you hear these things like the average tenure at this company is less than 3 years. It's less than 2 years. And I think, man, what is that all about? And we have spent an awful lot of time from the time I got here hiring the right people, building a culture that people want to work at, and trying to find those balances to, this is going to be a great place to work and you're going to love being here. Our average tenure is somewhere north of 10 years in technology. And what that says to me is the team has done a really great job managing a culture that people want to be in. And I would just implore technology managers to really pay attention to that. Like, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's about the people you want to hire. And how they live every day, most of their life under the roof where they work. And you get the benefits of a long tenure are so tremendous. Like, think of our code base. We have more than 22 million lines of source code, and we have a 10 or 11 year tenure. We can make tracks very, very quickly because the people that are here understand that code. And that doesn't mean we're not rolling in young people behind, because you have to do that too. But I think one of the things I would love to say to technology leaders is, let's pay attention to that. People really do love this computer science world, and we've got to make great places to work for them. And great places to work can also be business successful too, by the way, right?
Well, especially in e-com, it's crazy. Like, we see it, like the average tenure is, I hate to say, probably like 18 months with most of the people I ever talked to. So I think you nailed it. That's really good. You lose a lot of like domain expertise knowledge, like very vertical knowledge when you have attrition. So thanks again, Chris. This was a phenomenal chat. Really enjoyed it. And we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Kalen. Appreciate it.
The Ecommerce Toolbox Expert Perspectives is brought to you by Noibu. To find out more about Noibu and how we can help you debug your e-commerce site and rocket your revenue, visit www.noibu.com. That's Noibu.com. And then make sure to search for the Ecommerce Toolbox Expert Perspectives on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and click subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Noibu, thanks for listening.